just in the, in.
Yeah, she'll just Hello and welcome to Around the Clock. I'm your host, Yolanda Greaves. On this evening's live special, we will be discussing the merits of the proposed public safety building and the proposed Mindess replacement building. We will be starting the show with our police and fire department, Chiefs Keith Roby and Chief Vin Alfano, and our town manager, Michael Herbert. In the second part of our show, around 7:30, we will be joined by Superintendent Jim Adams, current Mindess Principal Claudia Bennett, and school committee member Mindess Feasibility Committee Chair Paul Kendall. There will be a short presentation by each group of guests, and then we will open the show for your questions and comments. As this is being broadcast on Zoom, we ask that you keep yourself muted unless you want to speak and that you use the raise hand feature when we get into the question and answer period. If you are watching on Facebook, please be aware that there is a bit of delay between what's happening on Zoom and what's on Facebook. And if you do have any questions, you can put them in the chat of the Facebook that you're watching, and they will be forwarded to us and to me to ask our guests. We are here to hear all questions and comments. We do ask that we keep it civil and to the subject at hand, which are our two building projects. Thank you for being here. Now I'd like to welcome Chief Vin Alfano, our police chief, Chief Keith Roby, our fire chief, and town manager Michael Herbert to Around the Clock. Gentlemen, welcome and thanks to Around the Clock. Go ahead and unmute yourself and there we go.
Yep. Thanks, Yolanda. Thanks for giving us this opportunity. We're looking forward to talk about the project.
great. It's so great to have you all back. I've had you all at different times here on Around the Clock. This is such an important time and discussion for our community. So you're going to be presenting for about 5 or 10 minutes, the merits, the need of the public safety building. And then once you go through that information, we're going to open it up for questions. So Chief Alfano, I'm going to have you start. In a nutshell, why do you need, as a police chief, why do you and your department need this new public safety building?
Well, the current police station, which was built in the 70s, was outdated the day we moved into it. We have a number of female officers and female staff. That building has no facilities, no locker room, and no bathrooms for our female staff. So I think, as a lot of you have seen, we have a kind of a rundown trailer out in the parking lot that the females have to use as their locker room, and to use the restroom facilities, they have to go outside to go to the bathroom. It's really not fair to them. It's not safe. And that trailer was a temporary stopgap. It's failing. So we're going to have to put a lot of money into that and repair it in the upcoming years. So a new station will be critical for that. My primary concern also is the safety of the officers. Right now, the building that we're in is unsafe. It's an unsafe working condition. Our prisoner handling area, our booking area, and our cell blocks are dangerous for the officers to handle prisoners in through the booking process. They're far outdated, and it's also a hazard for the officers. It's very easy for them to get hurt within that facility. The outside of the building, the parking lot is too small. We have a serious problem with our beautiful copper roof that looks wonderful, but the ice and snow slides off it. And we've had cruiser windows shattered. We've had staff and people hit on the head by ice. And even just getting out of our driveway, we've had multiple cruiser accidents and people hurt, both civilians and officers, just trying to get out of the driveway of the station because of the way it's located in that crazy intersection. It's very, very dangerous. So we really need to, look at a safer, more modern, more up-to-date facility for our staff and our officers. When we book a prisoner, the entire station is out of commission. If we bring any kind of drugs into the station, for example, we had quite a bit of marijuana in the other day, the whole station was out of service. I physically couldn't sit in my office because of the stench. We had to have our facility staff come over and try to deodorize the whole station.
Wow.
It's really not safe working conditions. They're not efficient, and it's just too small. The department size has grown quite a bit.
Great. Well, that's a lot of good reasons, and a good, for just the police side. Chief Roby, I know you have a similar story, but why don't you go ahead and tell us for the fire side, what is the need here?
Again, a lot of what Chief Alfano has just mentioned. We basically operate right now out of 2 fire stations, as you know, one built in 1928 and the other one in 1988 on the Cedar Street. The biggest thing is we're outgrowing the space. We don't have enough space for our apparatus. If you go to either station, you'll find our gears hanging around the outside of the fire trucks because we don't have a room to put it all in. Over the years, standards have changed. There's safety procedures in place that we just cannot physically put into place because of lack of space. The town bought us a washer and dryer for our gear, which brought us to a new standard, but yet we can't put it in. We had to put that right in the middle of the bay because we had no place else to put it. So
yeah,
space is our big thing. Safety of the fighters and the police. Well, their gym is actually in the basement of the Main Street Fire Station. A gym that has mold in it. We have 3 sump pumps at work actively in there, trying to keep the water out of it. Just again, no other space for either department to have a gym. So a lot of it is safety of the firefighters, backing the equipment in and out. Through the different videos you've seen, our trucks just barely fit inside these stations as it is today. We actually store quite a bit of stuff outside that would improve so much operationally if we could have them all inside and operate out of one station.
Yeah, which is why as you drive by the Cedar Street station, you see so many things sitting outside. And we've been talking about that for many years. So, so you've talked about the merits, why this is needed. Michael, one of the biggest questions and one of the biggest concerns right now for many people is the cost. How are we going to do this now? Why are we doing this now? So can you take us through that?
Sure. So we decided I think probably 2 or 3 years ago, that this was going to be a major initiative for the town, which is to build a new public safety building and actually a new Mindess school as well. But so we have progressed along that path and have done certain things, like did certain feasibility studies, put certain things in place. We looked at our debt. Our excluded debt, saw that a lot of that was falling off as projects had been paid off, like the community center, the library, and the town hall. And then so the question becomes, okay, well, why are we pushing forward with it now? I think as part of this initiative, in the middle of a pandemic with some economic uncertainties. I think the main thing I want to get across to people is that if we didn't feel like it would be advantageous to taxpayers in general to move forward with the projects at this time, we wouldn't be doing it. But over the last 6 months, we've been hearing from our OPM, which is our owner's project manager, that now is the time to do these projects because municipalities aren't doing work. And so what's happening is there is a just lack of municipal construction projects that are happening in the market. And so the few projects that are out there, contractors are very hungry and they're bidding very aggressively to try to get those projects. And so when we move forward with that, our estimate, including with the construction costs, our estimate was around 36.5 million. So that included 29 million as part of just the construction costs, 3.5 million for design and engineering, and then the rest is contingencies and furnishings and operations. So the key there is the 29 million in construction costs. When we did get bids in finally between Christmas and New Year's, the lowest bid was actually $7 million under. So it was $22 million. Actually, all 6 bids that we had received were under the $29 million estimate. So at least that strategy was proven right. It is going to be significantly less. So what does that mean in terms of a cost to the homeowner? And if Yolanda, if I can share a screen, I think I could put some graphics together.
Go ahead. I believe if we could make Michael a co-host, please, so that he can share his screen, that'd be great.
Looks like I am good to go.
Okay, perfect.
I will just go here. So if you look at the total project cost, I'll try to get this to where it looks nice. Again, this is the total project cost. Construction cost of 22.4, FFE, technology, communications, that's things like furnishings, electronics, design, OPM, administrative costs, contingencies. If you add all of that up, that comes out to $30,900,000. If you looked at our 2018 fall town meeting, we had already appropriated 3.5 million for design and engineering. And so that leaves the town meeting appropriation of $27,400,000. Go ahead, Yolanda.
Take us through though the financing of this, right? Because so we're and how we're discussing it at town meeting. So town meeting and the vote are going to say the 27,400,000, but it's not going to all be excluded debt, correct?
That's correct. We made the decision back in 2019, actually, that we would need to fund part of this through our existing tax levy and not through excluded debt. And we did that for a number of reasons. And so what we decided to do is actually redirect some funding in our existing municipal departments and the existing municipal capital project line item to help pay for this. So if you look at what the annual debt service cost is going to be on that $30,900,000 number, that comes out to 1.3 million. Again, historically, Ashland has always financed the entirety of these projects with a debt exclusion, unless there was a CPA related function to it. And sometimes we would use CPA monies to do that. That doesn't apply here. We can't use CPA. So what we did is, again, we're going to really kind of reduce the amount that we need to get through a debt exclusion by redirecting other parts of the budget, like I said, to a tune of $750,000. And so that includes $500,000 in our existing departmental budgets and $250,000 in our existing capital budget. And that leads to the amount that you need to fund through a debt exclusion by $629,683. And just to let everybody know, when you get to town meeting and you look at the town meeting warrant and you look at the warrant articles, you'll see the controlling number in that is that appropriation of the $27 million. That means we can't spend above that. And when you get to the ballot vote the following Wednesday, you're not going to see a number. And that's because we can't do that by Massachusetts general law. They do not allow you to put figures inside the votes for debt exclusions.
So Michael, some of the concerns, and maybe someone will bring it up who's here on the meeting or via Facebook, is that you're making this commitment, and you have both current chiefs here making this commitment that X amount will come out of capital, X amount will come out of the existing budget, and then we'll only look to do a certain portion from excluded debt. What commitment, or how do we then make sure that this maintains for the life of the borrowing and payments of this project?
Well, the controlling mechanism is the municipal budget. So I think I've told a lot of people, I know I've told you this, Yolanda, that I'm not planning on going anywhere. Obviously, sometimes that's out of my control. So putting forward a capital budget and an operating budget is the responsibility of the town manager under my charter, or under our charter.
Correct.
And so I have no plans to produce a budget that does not include the $750,000. And again, town meeting actually has ultimate control over the appropriations. So if people did not like what I put forward, let's say I did change it and put forward something differently, then town meeting can actually change it back through the town meeting process.
Okay. Now I know I was looking through your slide deck. You do have a rendering. I'm sure a lot of people have seen this, but some people may not because they're not on Facebook or social media. For those that are watching through WACA-TV from their homes, can you go ahead and show us what this building right now potentially looked like?
Yes, this is, so we'll call this the big reveal. Right?
Okay, great.
So here it is, a couple of elevation shots. This is a 3-story building. We did that to reduce costs. The other thing that we were looking at was a 2-story building with a basement. A basement would have added a tremendous amount of cost, so we went with a 3-story building. It is set back from the road by about 100 feet, so you're not going to necessarily see this mass. If you look at the top picture, if you look on the left, you'll see those are all apparatus bays. And one of the critical important things about having this new building is it allows us to consolidate our equipment into one location. So that's really, really important. Those apparatus bays help with that. And then on the right side, you see things like, the quarters for the fire department personnel, shared spaces, the gym, the administrative offices, and then a lot of the operational aspects, especially with the police department, things like booking rooms, records rooms, etc.
Now, for people who were watching via the cable station, they watched a clip of the two dispatchers, the police dispatcher and the fire dispatcher. Maybe the chiefs can take this. Part of the conversation is we can now share, or those dispatchers can be together. What's the benefit of that, and how will that be happening in this building if it passes by the voters?
Well, I can jump in and answer part of that from
Sure.
the police side. Right now, when you call 911 in Ashland, you go to the police station dispatch center. It's staffed 24/7 by a sole dispatcher. If that dispatcher has to leave to go to the bathroom, particularly if it's one of our females, they have to get up and leave the building and go out to their trailer to use the restroom. We have to call an officer in off the road to cover for them. So we have to take a police officer out of service to cover for them. They're in there by themselves. If you get a large volume of calls, or say a major incident like a house fire or something, that one dispatcher can very quickly be swamped with calls because they can only answer one phone call at the same time. So by having two dispatchers together, a fire dispatcher and a police dispatcher in the new facility, they can cover for each other. If one needs to, take a break, or if one needs to use the restroom, there actually is a restroom facility right in the dispatch area, so they never have to leave the room. So from our standpoint, it's just much more efficient. It's more comfortable. It's safer for them as well. So Keith, I know you have some concerns too.
Yeah, I mean, definitely for us, it's going to improve our operation. So, as Chief Alfano said, when you call 911, that goes to the police department. They go through their questions and people are answering them. They're just talking to the police department. When they're done, they transfer it to the fire department. We answer it and we go through the same exact questions. And I don't know how many times I hear, "Will you just come? Why are you asking me the same things over?" Well, you're speaking to a totally different department. I mean, we both go by different questions depending on what the type of call is. So it just really slows it down. But if we're side by side, it's going to be handled all together. They'll be each monitoring each other and hearing what's happening. And that will just save so much time on dispatch.
Great. Now, as we were looking at it, 7 bays, are they drive-through bays so that the trucks can pull through, or is it?
They will not be drive-through bays.
Okay.
Just do the landscaping there, and it just made it easier to have it one way, only one side available.
I see.
That's why there's actually 7 bays.
Okay.
As much as it looks so long, it's because they're all on one side. You went to Cedar Street, it's 6. You would see 6 bays, but 3 are going one way.
Right.
3
Right.
the other.
Cool. We have a few people on with us here. We have no comments yet via Facebook. Before I open it up, just Michael, one of the other questions is, when this was discussed at town meeting, all those, 3 years ago, we were told it was going to be 3.5 million and we were getting the 25 million from the state, which it's interesting. People are like, those are still our tax dollars coming back. What happened to that 25 million and why are we now asking the residents for this full amount?
Simple thing is that it was included in the bond bill passed by the legislature and moved forward. And the governor chose last year not to include it as part of his capital budget, which was a necessary part of this to happen. I know everybody was disappointed with that, including our legislative delegation and certainly ourselves. We probably, at that point in time, we felt like we could probably have done some work, and we probably didn't have to be as definitive as saying, "Oh, well, we don't think it's going to come," but we thought it was the best thing to do. When we first realized, there's a good chance this is not happening, that we go ahead and put that out there. And so that's why we did that, I think now 18 months ago.
Right.
So this is not new.
No, it's coming up for discussion, right? People people always will bring up the past and question things. So it's good to just air it out again.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Ultimately, we do have to make ultimately, we're going to be responsible for making the investments in our community that we need to make and that are necessary to make. And we're going to do it as efficiently as we can. Obviously, if there are funding opportunities in the future through the state or through the federal government, we will take every advantage of them as we can for this project and any other project.
Great. So as I said, we have a few people joining us here on the meeting. If you're here on the meeting and you'd like to I see. No, that's my mouse on there. If you'd like to either make a comment or if you have a question, you can go and raise your hand in the participant box, if you have even if it's just a comment for, against, or a question, we want to be interactive. Someone has mentioned that we discussed the sustainability features. Great idea. Thank you for recommending that. So yeah, talk about the sustainability. We're a community looking to be, sustainable, net zero by 2040. So what are some of the features in this building that support that?
Yeah, that's actually one of the exciting things about this building. When the design was put together, and I need to add that it was put together with the help of our police and fire departments. It wasn't necessarily a bunch of bureaucrats putting this together. It was actually put together with the help of the people who were actually using it. Obviously we wanted to correct some of the deficiencies in our current facilities, obviously, right? And the second thing that we wanted to do is we really wanted to make this a sustainable building and have it exhibit our sustainability goals and values. So the first, I think, big thing that we needed to decide upon is our HVAC system, and we decided to go with the geothermal system after much discussion and help from the sustainability committee. So that's really kind of the largest sustainability feature you'll see as part of this building. The second thing is that even though it is not, it will not have solar panels right now, it's actually solar ready. So what we're doing is we're reinforcing the roof. We are putting the wiring in place. So when it is time or we can afford to put solar panels on, we don't have to go tear up the building again to
Nice.
make that happen. A couple of other features that are smaller, a little bit in scope and cost, but certainly just as important. Insulation. So we have increased insulation. We've included a lot of rainwater harvesting and water saving features as part of the building. And we're also including charging stations as part of the parking aspects of the building as well.
Great. Great. Well, thank you for that. Chiefs, other thoughts on the sustainability? You were, as Michael said, you've been included in the discussion. Your officers have been included in the discussion. What are some of the things that they are looking forward to should this building pass at town meeting and at the election?
Well, I know right now in the police station, Yolanda, all the utilities are far beyond normal life. Our plumbing is so old, the facilities department has to try to source. They can't get parts for a lot of it because it's antiquated. The building is terrible as far as energy efficiency. We have an outdated heating system that's in the attic, which no one can figure out why it's in the attic. So that's getting close to end of life as well. And remember, we're paying for additional office space in downtown Ashland and 91 Main Street, the administrative building. That's $30,000 plus a year plus utilities that we have to pay for that. And again, that's not an energy efficient building. So all of the things that Mr. Herbert talked about will greatly reduce our carbon footprint and the dollar bill energy costs for our facilities.
Chief Roby?
So for us, I think it's going to be a great increase to our operations, all coming out of one station, having the available truck that we need. I mean, occasionally you'll see us go back and forth between stations just to get a boat or get something particular. The other thing is the wellness of the firefighters. We talk a lot about the cancer rates that are increasing in the fire department. One of the big things is when we come back to the fire station, if we have to go back to undress and shower and stuff, we have to go through the fire station up to the showers, and we expose everybody in the fire station to whatever we've got on us. And believe me, when we come back, we're covered in a lot of toxins. The new station will have a shower right off the garage. You'll go in, you'll undress, shower, redress in the locker room, and be able to go before you enter the fire station. So it'll reduce exposures. And again, that's very big with COVID. I mean, if people want to relate it to today, we go with COVID. If I come back from a medical and I've been exposed, I have no choice but to go through the fire station to get to the shower to change.
Before I let you go, before we wrap up, it's been asked that we talk about the downtown. But before that, and again, this is difficult because the three of you, Keith, you've been as you've been a firefighter for a while. Some of this could have been avoided to need a new station had we done more maintenance, or has maintenance been done along the way and they've just outlived their usefulness?
I think that's a great question. These buildings were built in 1928, 1978, and I believe the Cedar Street was 1987, right? I can't really speak for the 1928 fire station, but I think everybody can agree that the two more recent buildings, and when I say more recent, we're talking about 30, 40 years old now, were not built. There were some decisions made in order to cut costs at that point in time that ended up costing us more in the future. And so we have tried to maintain them to the best of our abilities, but there's only so many times you can use duct tape and spit to hold something together. And, if you look at it, sometimes it's just a design feature. Chief Alfano mentioned the copper roof. Copper roof looks great, looks awesome. Not necessarily the most functional thing nowadays. And, so is that a facilities issue? Is that a maintenance issue? I don't think so. We've made a really concerted effort, especially over the last 5 years, to increase our investment.
Definitely.
The ongoing maintenance, and then, replacing HVAC equipment, stuff like that. So I think it's just a matter of the buildings are old, that they're old.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Well, Chief Alfano, Chief Roby, Michael, I want to thank you all for being here. Again, if people have more questions or more concerns, what is the best way for them to get those questions answered? Michael or Chiefs?
The best way is you can send an email to the Public Safety Building Committee, which is PSB Committee, all one word, at ashlandmass.com. So please do that.
Great.
If you have issues with that, feel free to send something to me directly, mherbert@ashlandmass.com.
Great. Well, I want to thank you all for being here. For those who have been watching, both here on Zoom and on Facebook, we have 2 minutes. Michael, what is the benefit to getting these buildings out of downtown?
Oh, wow. Well, we put a real concerted effort in making downtown more of a destination. So this frees up 2 just critical parcels, right? They're almost like the cornerstone of downtown, in the police and the fire station. So, it's going to give us the opportunity, if those buildings are vacated, to redevelop them into something that's another community asset. We've seen fire stations redeveloped in Massachusetts into things like restaurants, like the Old Colonial Cafe in Norwood, and then also like an art center and like Amazing Things in Framingham. So just the possibility of seeing that happen is, I think, exciting enough to get our police and fire departments out of those existing buildings right now.
Great. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. For your sakes, I hope the residents will look at all the information, make the decision that they can support, and come out to town meeting and to the ballot. So thank you all for your work. Thank you, Chief Alfano. Thank you, Chief Roby. And thank you, Michael, for being here. We are going to shift to our public safety. And again, if you have any other questions, make sure you reach out to PSB Committee. Got to spell that word right, at ashlandmass.com. Also, they have a great Facebook page. They've been doing some great posts. You can find all kinds of information. Again, read all the information, talk to a lot of people, and know that our fire department, our police department, our town manager and his staff are presenting correct information, and they're not trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes or mislead us. So please ask your questions and reach out to us. Thank you, gentlemen. I'm now going to invite, we're going to move on to our Mindess building, our Mindess replacement project discussion. We are going to be joined by Paul Kendall he's a school committee member as well as the chair of the Mindess committee, the feasibility committee, Principal Claudia Bennett, and I believe Jim Adams is going to be joining us. I don't see him yet. I'm sure he'll be jumping on shortly. Jim, Claudia and Paul, who are here already, we're going to ask you to talk to us about the merits of this Mindess replacement project. Take us through some of the information, and then we will be opening it up to questions. But thank you, Claudia. Thank you, Paul. Welcome to Around the Clock. Paul, let's have you get us started with the merits and need for this Mindess replacement project.
Sure. Thanks for having us, first of all. I wasn't able to be on for the other presentation, but I've seen the other project and know that that's a good investment as well. Now, do I have the ability to share?
If we can give Paul the ability to share, that'd be great. I don't have that control. Someone else will do it for me.
Let me see if it's going to work.
There we go. Yeah.
All right. There we go. We got it. All right. So I have some slides. I'll try to be very brief and only go back to the ones that people need. So this is just a watercolor rendering of what the front of the building might look like, followed by a view from the east side. I'll show you the site layout, and it'll probably make a little bit more sense. First, I do always want to let me make this a full screen presentation here first. Hold on one second. So I do want to thank the committee members. They've done, this has been a 3-year commitment from the town side, and there's been a lot of hard work done by the committee to get through the process with the MSBA and get to this point. So our project team, but I'll just hop right into the site planning. So this kind of gives you an aerial view of what the current building that we're looking to design would feature. And the key features, we have that the front area here. This has 3 designated outdoor learning spots. So there's a courtyard in the middle here. They're all labeled 8. There's one on the east side here where there's a green space and potentially some raised gardens and things like that. And just outside of the media center, there's also a rooftop space that will be able. So we're really looking at this to be able to have learning opportunities throughout the campus, outside, inside, in the shared spaces and everything like that. So I'll go to a kind of an aerial view of it. And one of the other things that's very critical here is we understand the impact we're already having on Concord with our pickup drop off. So we address this with this nice queuing spot. We have designated now areas for drop off and pickup by parents, and also a separate bus drop off and pickup area. So that really alleviates, we expect to be able to have all the queuing be on site, alleviating the issues we see every morning and every afternoon. But, you know, talking about just the overall site, if you look at this, the current building would stretch across the middle here. It's in this dotted section here. But what we really want this to think of is this is going to be an asset for the entire community. It's not just a school. I'm very proud of the building committee, the way they've thought about it, and the designers have thought about it from the get-go as this is a community asset. And when it's not being used as a school for the 7 hours during the school year each day, that this is the destination for a lot of our community activities. And so whether your children are playing on the ball fields with youth sports, whether there's community programming, leveraging the community spaces in the building, whether you're a senior, and we're going to have these walking paths around the campus. So there's not a lot of great places for seniors or other people to just, hey, take their car, park it, and have a nice walk that, you know, is easy and flat. And so we want there to be something for everyone. And I think the designers have really listened to us and worked towards that. So Claudia, I'll let you just very briefly speak to this. This is one of from an educator's perspective, I know they get really excited about this slide here.
Yeah, so, you know, one of the things that we've really learned through the years is how important collaboration and the mentoring of students, older ones to younger ones and that. And so this building configuration allows us to have 2 floors and a 3rd grade academic house, a 4th grade academic house, and a 5th grade academic house. Again, each 2 floors, and it allows for pretty easy vertical and horizontal collaboration. So not only will the 3rd grade teachers be able to come together, but also a 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade team of teachers could come together. And so that's really exciting. That's something, you know, we certainly don't enjoy now at Mindess, just because of the layout itself. Just doesn't allow for easy collaboration among teams and groups of teachers.
So Claudia, this sort of brings together all the best aspects of the educational program that's going on at Mindess right now, right? In regards to the neighborhood and the individual, you know, so it's really bringing that all together.
Yeah, we're evolving, you know, into a more unified plan at Mindess and program. And, you know, with that evolution, we are certainly trying to take with us the things that we have learned through the years that really are the best for our students and education in general. So this absolutely gives us a building that fits the philosophy of our education.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, we've met in the school committee about the programming, how the direction it's moving. this is really exciting because it's a graphical representation of exactly what we've been talking about. And so it's an exciting idea that previously the educators have been doing a great job despite the building. And this is where where the building is actually going to function, in a direct alignment with what our educational programming is supposed to be. So it's pretty exciting.
So I know people, we have it open. We don't have that many people on right now, but a question that I've seen concern is, how will this building allow us to moderate or flow and change our education and how we do our education, right? So we had our neighborhood model. We're shifting a little bit out of that. We're now using the hybrid model because of COVID, so that there's the online learning. How will this building, should it get passed, which we all hope it does, allow us to adjust and keep evolving how we educate students?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So this is all designed with flexibility in mind. So one of the key things that you see that was both in this slide here, and it shows all these arrows going to the commons, the outdoor classrooms, it really allows for flexibility where all these are collated. If you look at our current building, we have the 5th graders down by the auditorium. We have the 3rd grade wing at the complete other end of the building. We have the enrichment spaces spread throughout the building. It's just,
right.
It's as inefficient as possible. It's inflexible. Whereas everything, all of our discussions around the spaces have always been about how do we make it flexible so that not only will we have just the gross square footage in 20 years, but if the educational standards change, the way we deliver education changes, this space is flexible. And Claudia, I don't know what you want to add to that, but.
Yeah, Paul, I just want to add about the common spaces, okay? If you go into an elementary school, you see the children are spilling into the hallways at all times. And this was part of the conversation in many of the meetings that we had with the groups that met to talk about what the building should look like. And so we've tried to really give the students a place to go and to collaborate. Recently, someone, I wish I could remember who it was, but somebody at one of our meetings, one of the adults was talking about their older child who, even in a Google Meet or a Zoom setting, missed having their peers standing behind them saying, what about this? What about that? So even in this virtual world, there are pieces that students miss, that having somebody right with you, working with you, collaborating with you, it is the world around us. I mean, we're already there, and education sometimes struggles to keep up with the world, and this building really does that.
So Yolanda, can I just add just a tiny
Sure,
bit?
Jim, thank you. Welcome to the show, and welcome to the conversation. Go ahead.
Thank you. Now, as we're going through this unbelievable time period with COVID, right? And I think as we started this process a number of years ago, we're thinking about flexible space, but we're thinking about education itself, and the mode of delivering education has changed so dramatically in the past since March, right?
Right.
And so, we've got an opportunity here, not only from an infrastructure standpoint with technology to create this opportunity, but we're trying to design something for 50 to 70 years down the road as well. And that's the challenge, right? Is no matter what we're looking at today, and Claudia said, education is just, it's like this glacier. Sometimes it just takes so long to get us to move, to change with pedagogy and to change with instructional practices. But I think the one thing that COVID has shown us is that we can do that actually a little more quickly than what we were led to believe as longtime educators like Claudia and I are. And so I think these spaces allow that adaptability, and it's really well designed and thought out, and and having those conversations with teachers and Claudia and Mike and saying, okay, we want an elementary school to not only be representative of an elementary school, but to have that flexibility between grade levels, to have that flexibility across the building itself and the common areas. So it's really well thought out and done, and will give Ashland over the next 40, 50 years opportunities to to grow and expand. And I don't mean it just from a facility standpoint, but from an educational delivery standpoint.
And
Great.
we've been able to also embed service providers into,
Right.
you know, the smaller areas of the classrooms you know, right now, sometimes, you know, a student will have to walk 5-6 minutes just to get to a person who's going to give them some special services. So, you know, so all of that now is done in a thoughtful way instead of here's what we have, how can we make this work for us?
Right.
Yeah, and
So-
the other thing, the other thing you'll see in these floor plans is that what we always thought of schools and the different spaces are rethought out. The library is now, we've taken some of that square footage and it's distributed throughout the building. We have an art room on each floor, not just a big space somewhere off. And so it really lends a lot of flexibility. So.
Great, you know, to see this, and I know a lot of thought has been put all into this. A lot of people, the question is, what is the cost to me, the taxpayer? If I support this and I want to make sure that, you know, that we're doing this, what am I going to be paying now and in the future?
Sure.
You know, what's that cost to me, the taxpayer?
Yeah, no, that's a very important question. Certainly, you know, certainly right now. So I'll start with just the breakdown of the budget. And what I want to highlight right now, and contrast it with the previous conversation you had with the public safety building, and the difference between the how we're funding it and where we are in the process, right? So right now, the public safety building has bids in hand, right? They have those things, and so they have a little more certainty about a particular figure than we do here. But what we have right now is the budget we set here is a not to exceed budget.
Right.
We are at a point where we are through schematic design, and the whole purpose of schematic design is to design the building so we know the footprint of the building, we know the floor plan of the building, we know the materials we're going to use, we know all the different things that we need, the professional estimators need to create a good estimate for us, and so an accurate estimate. So what we've done now is we've set that budget, and that's what we see here broken down between all these different categories, and I won't read it all to you. So the total project budget being 84,387, that is inclusive of the $1 million we approved in 2018 for the feasibility study, which brought us to today. So this is just a breakdown of that. And then what the MSBA has, you know, committed to the project. And it's a range because of until we build it, there are some additional contingencies that could get us more money if they're eligible. But it's between 26.2 and 27, just over $27 million. That's the state funding. We've already entered into the first step of the scope and budget agreement. So that is already been voted on by the MSBA and committed to the project. They have approved the current schematic design.
Okay.
Because we're going through this process, different than the previous project you discussed, this is a grant process. And so their reimbursement, they set a reimbursement rate of us for 55.57 very quickly, because of different caps they have and exclusions that every project faces. It's not that ours is different than any other project in that regard. The effective rate will probably be between 32 and 35% of the total project cost that will be reimbursed by the state. This is in all of our presentations.
Yeah, I think this is a bit of an eye chart, I think, for people.
the main thing to take away from here is what is impacting that reimbursement rate. And there's two main things that impact it. The construction cap they have at $333 a square foot from a construction cost perspective. You can't build anything for that. Every project goes over that. So there's nothing unique there. You'll see that drops that particular line item down to 32%, 32.5% reimbursement. And then site work. They intentionally try to make it equitable. So if you're an urban project with very little site work, a very small site, that they're not giving the more rural or suburban projects that have a large site like us, more money. So essentially they cap it at 8% of the building cost, which essentially doesn't go much past the building footprint. So because we have a large site, the majority of our site work, they don't participate in. So you'll see that reimbursement rate is low. Again, nothing unique to this site or our project. It's just dependent upon the size of your site.
Okay.
And I assume Michael might have shared a similar.
We did not look at this as part of the public safety building, so
Okay.
it's great that you're sharing it, Paul.
All right, so this is something we put together with collaboration with the other building project, excuse me. And what this shows is the portion of some of our tax bills that go to debt excluded projects. And so very briefly what that means, if you were to think sitting below this chart is what I will call the base taxes. It's your standard property taxes that are governed by Proposition 2.5 and such. And then what the gray bars indicate here are previously excluded debt projects. So that includes the renovations of town hall, the library, it includes the high school, it includes the feasibility study that we just concluded. It includes the purchase of the Valentine property, things like that. So all the previous things that we have voted on in a similar way, we're asking this to be voted on, are what those gray bars represent. And what that means is it allows the town to go out, borrow the money for those projects, and then raise the taxes by the amount necessary to make the payments on that debt. That's essentially, in a nutshell, what the gray bars represent is our previously excluded projects and how that is coming down over time because we're paying off those projects, and then overlaying the tax impact of these two projects. And we've made a concerted effort not to have a Mindess project and a public safety project chart because we want to be as transparent as we can and as genuine as we can. Both are on the same ballot. We're asking the voters to support both projects. So we wanted to make sure that we consolidated it in one picture.
Well, and as you stated, Paul, that all the gray is a combination of the town hall work, the high school, the library addition, the updated community center. So that's all combined.
Right.
And as that excluded debt drops off, it makes, as a community looking to invest, you look at where you can expend more debt to keep improving your community.
Yeah, so in this chart represents what we said is the average single family tax bill. And bill meaning annual taxes, not
Right,
a singular
not the-
quarter tax.
Right.
So that is a home that evaluates to $427,163. So this is what it would mean for that average household. And you'll see that the public safety is $90, and that's very consistent. And then the Mindess is kind of layered in there in more gradual fashion. So just very quickly, the reason for that. It's partly due to the funding and also the project timelines. They already have bids in hand. I believe their construction schedule is about 14 to 18 months or something like that. And our funding mechanism is we are working with the MSBA, we're being reimbursed. We only need to borrow the money as it's required. And we have a more of a elongated time frame. We need to complete design development over the summer, break ground in the fall, and then go through about 21 months of construction. So we can delay that tax impact a bit. And that's why it's structured the way it is. So just to, because that's an obvious question of, okay, why is one hitting at $90 consistently and the other one is slower to hit? And we consciously wanted to make sure that we understand that right now, everybody's being impacted to varying degrees by what's going on. So while we're asking for people to make a decision right now, you'll see the impact of this primarily hits about 3.5 years from now, the way this scenario plays out. And so that's very, very, very critical. And we also wanted to align it with the time in which these other projects that the town has funded and supported gets paid down. So that just kind of limits the overall tax impact on the taxpayers, because we want to make sure we do that regardless of the situation, but we certainly want to do it right now, where we wouldn't want to ask the taxpayers this next fiscal year to slap on several $100s onto their tax bill when we know we're still going to be in recovery from what's going on right now.
Which I think, is some of the concern, right? Why are we doing this now? And why are both projects happening at the same time?
Right. So, and forgive me, I wasn't able to listen in. So if I'm repeating what was already said, so there, to me,
This was not a question that was addressed with the public safety. So,
okay. So Michael left it to me. Okay, great. No, that's great. So it's a very reasonable question. Why now? What's the deal? We're jumping through hoops with special town meeting, making sure we do all the protocols and making it safe, but why not just punt this? Why not just wait? And there's several reasons for that. One, if you've been keeping track of this and you've seen the previous graphs we've shown, one of the things you'll notice is that the numbers are different. And the numbers are different for two different reasons, but the primary reason why, particularly the Mindess project numbers are different, is we reduced the interest rate we're expecting. We've always tried to be conservative. Our previous estimations were using a 3% interest rate. Well, when we just got reaffirmed at AAA for our credit rating as a town. And when Michael looked at what the current rates are for November for AAA rated municipalities, it was 1.25 as a true cost interest rate. So we felt comfortable to still be conservative, but reduce that to 2% instead of 3%. In doing that, it saves only this project, $9.5 million over the term. And on this particular chart for this evaluation, reduced the FY25 tax impact by $50. So we have a real opportunity here to take advantage of historically low interest rates. So if this were to drop another 0.5% and be 1.5%, that would be another $4.5 million savings just for this project. That doesn't include the public safety building project, which also would similarly benefit from that. And the other thing that they may or may not have mentioned, so they have bids in hand. And we know that the estimation for the public safety construction cost was just over $29 million. And the bids they got in, the low bid, the winning bid was just over $22 million. So significant savings in the bidding. So we have a very, very competitive construction market right now, which means that our estimates for this project could, we could stand to save a lot of money on the construction costs and then also on the financing. So why now? Those are the biggest, most compelling reasons. Some of the other drivers, even if we were to say, why don't we wait for 3-4 months from now? With the way that the phasing has to work for this project, it's likely to delay the opening of the school another year. And if we were to want to have a substantial delay, we would need to get that approved by the MSBA, because this is part of their capital planning. And so they've outlaid, based on our schedule, when they need to reimburse that 26 million. If we were to have a significant delay, we may not have a say as when we get back into that and when that schedule is. So those are just all the different factors.
Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but originally when the schools went to the MSBA, we didn't think they were going to accept us quite as quickly as they did. Is that correct?
No, I think we have a very compelling reason. So I think maybe
hold on. Paul, I'm gonna let Jim answer this if you don't mind.
No, Paul's point. I think the process itself certainly was a little more quicker. We got through the pipeline more quickly than we have in the past. I'll leave it at that. I think the case of Mindess itself, if you look at that building, going back to the 1950s and the numerous iterations it went through and how it's not up to code and ADA, we certainly had a compelling case. And certainly, you know, I think we've had tremendous support from Senator Spilka and others within the legislature saying, hey, this is a project that's worth looking at. Ashland has been very supportive through the years with their school building projects. And as a community, they look at that at the MSBA level.
I think it's more I guess the reason I made that comment is
it took me twice though, remember. I filed twice.
right.
I actually put
we
through.
had put, you know, that there was the discussion about the public safety building happening. And then there was the discussion, okay, let's apply and see what happens with Mindess.
Right.
And then it was accepted. And unfortunately with the MSBA, or fortunately, once you accept moving into their process, you have to continue with their process. Once they say, yep,
If you want their money, sure.
Right. So we have about
do.
three minutes. Unfortunately, with a live show, you got to stay in those time frames. So Paul, thank you for this information. Before I let the three of you go, if there was one thing you could say to people who are watching this either, you know, on cable or who watch this later, and I'm going to start with you, Claudia, what's the one thing that you can leave with residents and voters as to why now and why the Mindess?
You know, a couple of years ago when this project was underway for a little bit of time at that point, and I was talking to someone like you and I, Yolanda, whose children had long graduated from Mindess, and they said, Claudia, we needed a new school when our kids were there. And it, you know, I think that in all fairness to our students and trying to prepare them for the challenges that they will face in this century and in this ever-changing world, that we need to provide them the tools and that will help get them there. So I think there's just nothing more compelling than doing the right thing for the kids.
Great. And Paul, if they have more questions after watching this, or they still aren't quite sure, who should they reach out to either ask more questions or get even more information if they need it?
They are welcome to reach out to me personally. They can send email to the committee as a whole. It's buildingcommittee@ashland.k12.ma.us. We have the Facebook page. We actually, just before this, was on an informal conversation that community member wanted to host with a small group. We're happy to answer any questions, and yeah, just don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. Ping me on Facebook, ping me whatever way we can inform people we're wanting to do that.
Great. Well, Jim, Paul, and Claudia, thank you for being here. For those who are watching, whether it's via Facebook or Zoom, or you're catching this via the cable station, thank you for watching. I hope to see you at town meeting on Saturday, the 23rd. Presentation starts at 10. Once the presentations are wrapped up, voting will be open for 2.5 hours. You don't have to be there. You can come and vote when you're ready, once you've watched the presentations. And then there is a second vote needed at the town election, which is on Wednesday, January 27th. If you don't want to go vote in person, you do need to request your mail-in ballot no later than this Thursday, January 21st. And get it back no later than the close of polls on the 27th. All of this information is available on the Ashland, Mass website. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for those who have joined us. Thanks for watching this live show. It's always interesting doing it live. You're not quite sure what you're going to get. Thank you. And all I ask is that you all stay safe, wear a mask, and we'll see you on the next Around the Clock. Thank you again all for being here. Take care. Have a great night.
Good to see you.
Good seeing you.